Hello, everyone. This is Rachel. Hello. And I'm going to show you the books that I chose for purchase and why I chose them. And as you can see, I kind of have them separated out a little bit. Just show, it's just this top row here. I know there's a lot toward the bottom also, but those are shelved books. So the first books that I chose, these are just a small section of the books I chose for just good reading, just kind of sillier books. Pete the Cat. I had quite a few Pete the Cat books. I love Pete the Cat. I think that there's, with the rhyming and just the awesome flow, you know, rocking in my school shoes. I'm rocking in my school shoes. I just think that those books are awesome, and I put down to get a series of them because I just think that you can learn so much from those. Then Grace is one of the books that I chose that can teach a lesson. That, and then the Llama Llama and the Bully Goat. I think that these type of books help kids to deal with specific emotions that go along with maybe friends or other students causing low self-esteem, causing some heartache. These were both books that would be great books to read in whole group and then have question and answer sessions to talk about different emotions. And then some kind of more fun books. The Kindergarten Cat is also one that can bring about some good thinking skills along the lines of this poor little kitty that was found by a dumpster. Nobody wanted him. So the kindergarten class adopted him. That's a really cute one. And then some funnier books is the Round Trip. It's not really a humorous book, but it's just a neat book that talks about going on a trip, and then when you get to the end, you flip it upside down and it takes you right back through, and the black and white illustrations just are awesome. They don't have to be changed at all. They just flow with the round trip there and back. And then the funnier books, if you've never read The Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors, buy it. Get it on Amazon. It is awesome. That is a funnier book, as is Are We There Yet? Just very creative, using your imagination, getting bored on a very long trip. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? We've all heard that or said it. So this book is more for that kid that's bored in the car and just begins to use its creative mind. Dinosaurs helping him along on his road trip, and it's a very creative book. Some of the books, I love series. In this library, we have tons of different series, and the kids from first grade on love that. They love to be able to read that first book and then move on to the second, and especially those first graders and even second graders that are just learning to read those chapter books, those smaller chapter books. They love to feel like the big kids. Okay, I'm done with book 1. Where's book 2? And so Magic Tree House is an amazing series. It involves love of literature. These kids, Jack and Annie, they go on these adventures by opening up this book in their magic tree house, and it takes them to these adventures that they're reading about. And I put down, it didn't really say we could or could not, so I put down to buy a big chunk of the books. I believe it was books 1 through 24. And it was, I think, about $80. But I think these books are amazing books to have because, as you can see, I'll open one up here for you. They have smaller chapters. There's not as much reading on each page. So, I mean, even first graders, they might get a little frustrated trying to read through those and sound those out, but the second graders, they just roll through it. So I think that is a fantastic series to have. And the next series I put down was Junie B. Jones. And I believe this was books 1 through 8. And these books, exact same thing. I even have kindergartners beginning to check them out. And I make sure to get authorization from parents first because they are more difficult for a kindergartner. And I don't want parents to think the assumption is their kids can read those. So I make sure that the parents okay that their kids are bringing them home and that they will read them with them. And the same thing, they're not graphic novels, but there's more pictures in each one. And the words are bigger. They're not as difficult chapter books as some of the other ones are for the older kids. So I put down to get this series because it's kind of the same concept. These kids love to read these series. And a lot of them have to do with specific grades. Junie B, first grader, Aloha. Junie B, first grader, At Last. A lot of them are the first grade stuff. So I chose that series. Another series that I picked is the I Survived. I Survived. This one is perfect for second grade and up as well. It has the fiction aspect because the characters are made up, but it also tells about real stories. Now, it's not nonfiction because the stories do have some certain creative and entertaining elements put to them, but it's things that happened. Hurricane Katrina, the Great Chicago Fire, the San Francisco earthquake, the Hindenburg disaster, and I have several more back there. And I wanted to include this series because exact same concept. These are great books, and it also teaches kids a little bit about history. And then the final series I put down, and I just put a few of these books up here. We have a ton of them, but I was running out of space. The Dr. Seuss. These books, along with those Pete the Cat books, a little different. These are longer, but the rhyming words, the illustrations, the nonsense words that these younger kids can sound out and blend, I think that really, really helps them with their literacy. So these are just a few of the series that I picked. These are some of the fairy tale books or the fragmented fairy tale books that Julie had us choose earlier on in the semester, and I included a few of those. Some of them, the originals. This one is one of the originals. And then a couple of the fragmented ones, the Bigfoot Cinderella, and then the Adelita, the Mexican Cinderella story, and then the worldwide Cinderella story that tells the original story of Cinderella, but changes it to fit the culture that it's speaking of on that specific page. And then Jack and the Beanstalk. And then I also got the fragmented one, Jack the Giant Killer. Has the poor giant as the victim in that story. So these are books that I chose as well, Where the Wild Things Are. Fantastic book, creativity. I think a lot of those, Caldecott Award winner, a lot of people probably have that in their library right now. Shivers in the Fridge, that's a great book. And then I put a couple, Rushmore and Grandfather's Journey. Rushmore talks about the building of Mount Rushmore and the dream that one specific person had to get it going. And then Grandfather's Journey, a story about an immigrant that comes over to the United States and sees different beautiful scenery and experiences a lot of different things, but then decides, I might want to go back where my family comes from and spend some time back and forth. So, and then these set of books are ones that I wanted to include in the library that include different artistic characters or elements. This one, The Cloak and the Dreamer, it has a really neat storyline about doing what is in your heart versus what's expected of you. But it also has those different shapes on the cloaks. And then A Color of His Own, Harold and the Purple Crown, The Day the Crowns Quit. Those have to do with lines and the colors of the illustrations, as does Ish and Little Blue and Little Yellow. Talks about that blending of colors and how blending those two together can change. And then as far as counting in the alphabet goes, I have Count the Monkeys, Double Delight Alphabet. And then, of course, good old Dr. Seuss's ABC. And in the Dr. Seuss series that I asked to purchase on my purchasing project, it also includes One Fish, Two Fish, and some other books that would also go into that section. And then these are books that I didn't really include in a specific section, but this book is fantastic if you have not read it. It talks about essentially how we can get carried away with technology. Sometimes it's great, it's educational, it teaches us things, but sometimes it's nice to just put it all down and focus on what family and what really matters. So that's a fantastic book. And then I wanted to throw a couple of biographies in there, and this is Home Run, the story of Babe Ruth, and a lot of my older boys love this book. And then The Book Itch, of course, a story about freedom and a bookstore in Harlem that introduces readers to historical figures like Malcolm X, and just great book. Talks about how we're all more alike than we think. That's just a great book, and that was one of our William Allen White books for this year. And then Henry's Freedom Box is a book I read when we were doing a project, our historical fiction project, but I guess this would be historical nonfiction. So about a boy, Henry, that is from the Underground Railroad. So I definitely would suggest that as a read. And then Ask Me. This is a great book to read with kids when you want to find out more about them. The father's walking the daughter through the neighborhood and asks her questions, different questions. What's the favorite color, her favorite color of a leaf? Just different things. So that's a great one to find out more information about kids. And then I know that this is 2016. I would never put this one in a classroom because the information would be outdated. But I love all the facts from it. So I would definitely put the Guinness World Records book for 2018 for the particular year that you're in. And I'm sorry I don't have that one here, but I would definitely include that one in a classroom. It's great for research along with encyclopedias and the Britannica websites. And then Save Me a Seat. This book is fantastic. Maybe if you're in a younger classroom for a whole group read. Just talks about kids from different cultures and how they learn to relate to each other. It's a great book. So these are just some of my selections that I would include. And I did get to about $950. I didn't want to go over. But this was extremely fun, learning about all the different books and pretending to put together a classroom library.